So this is interesting. This is a park with not a single bin. There's some stuff, it's put right next to the bin. It's stuff that wouldn't fit because this has a very narrow opening. Anywhere you stand in this park, there'll be at most 10 meters to the next bin. This one's overflowing. Look, there's some rubbish here. It's always microplastics, it's always the small stuff. Cigarette butts, that's what's going on.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Keep It Clean. In this second part of our Romanian special, we're gonna have a look at the state of littering in Iasi, Romania's second largest city, located 400 kilometers away from Bucharest, in the northeast of the country. As we've previously done in Bucharest, we're gonna focus our attention on areas off the beaten path. We'll tackle back alleys, random parks, and unpretentious neighborhoods in an attempt to paint a picture of what the average situation is in this city and how people treat the place that they live in. We'll also touch on a couple of central areas, only for reference, but this is definitely not to be taken as a tourist guide. So, let's get started. Here I am in Wancea, a part of the neighborhood of Totoraș. Let's have a look at how well it's kept. It's not looking too bad, but it could be better. There are some cigarette butts and some small plastics. Then you get this. There's a plastic bag over there, but apart from that, clearly the biggest problem are cigarette butts. Now, I've seen worse and I've seen better, but someone should really do a proper cleanup and pick all of those up, because it's not looking good.
This looks exactly like where I grew up. So, not really a fancy neighborhood, but a clean neighborhood nonetheless. A lot of bins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6 bins in this small enclosure. So, 1 point to Gryffindor. It's generally surprisingly clean, given the density of this place. There are hundreds and hundreds of families. It's actually surprisingly clean. Some cigarette butts and things like that, but it's not like stomach churning. Look, there's some rubbish here. It's impossible not to find anything, but it's a lot better than I thought. Well, there's some stuff here. Some small things, but lots of them. It's definitely not cleaned properly. Another children's playground. It has 3 bins, and it looks alright. This is a heavy traffic sidewalk, and we're just gonna look at the state of things. Microplastics, that's the issue here. It's always microplastics, it's always the small stuff. Cigarette butts, these are the biggest offenders. They're all over, more or less. That's what's going on. There's a bench over here, so I expect to find some rubbish behind it. There's not much here, a couple of cigarette butts. It's looking good. I guess it's the same story as in Bucharest, just socialist buildings surrounded by green space. The infrastructure is old and decrepit at times, but it's not really all that dirty. So there's a random piece of litter here and there, but nothing major. Even behind the shops, these are shops, street level, like everything's tidied up. So this is interesting. This is a park with not a single bin. Also, not a single piece of litter. I want to stress out, this is not a fancy area of the city. It's not. There are a lot of people living here. I mean, check it out. Either they clean it 10 times a day or they just don't litter. There's some stuff, it's put right next to the bin. It's stuff that wouldn't fit because this has a very narrow opening. But apart from those McDonald's bags, there's nothing around me. Not even cigarette butts in this particular area.
So, without a doubt, as much as I got to see if this neighborhood was clean and very clean, green spaces in particular seem to be well looked after, and that also seemed to be the case in other neighborhoods. For instance, here I am in Cantemir. Green space after green space, they were all well kept, with almost no litter whatsoever to be seen. Surprisingly enough, the dirtiest park I could find, though park is a big word for something of this size, was pretty close to the city center, in Podoroș, an extremely heavily used recreational area, mainly for the elderly, as well as open to pedestrian traffic towards the center of the city. This little bad boy was disappointing, but still it was cleaner than any green space around Wembley back in London, so at least there's that. In any case, some work to do here. Having said that, all the other parks I visited during my stay were close to impeccable, and even I find it hard to believe. Take a look.
The biggest offenders are cigarette butts. Well, those are unavoidable. But that's about it. Everything else, to the last bench, is spotless. Even I am surprised. There's no disaster. It's just clean. We are in the northern side of the city, in the exhibition park, as it's called. It's a public park. You can see how many bins there are. Anywhere you stand in this park, there'll be at most 10 meters to the next bin. They're emptied regularly. Today is a Saturday and it looks like this. There just isn't rubbish generally. And I'm really trying, trust me, I'm really trying to find something. And I can't. I just can't. There isn't any. I would show it to you, but there's none. And this is not a central area. This is just the northernmost area of the city. I'm just saying, it's possible. Parks can actually be clean, even if they're managed by the local council. And another public park called Po Park. Let's see how it presents itself. It looks to be just as clean. There's not a single trace of rubbish. None whatsoever. There's no rubbish under these bushes. There's no rubbish in the bushes. Saturday afternoon and rubbish getting picked. This is a play that's called The Garbage Man. That's a nice coincidence. See, that's how it's done. It's Tuesday, 3 p.m. And this guy just goes around cleaning all the bins. And that's how this park looks the way it is. Nice, clean, well kept. And this is the same park, off the beaten path. I'm just curious if there's no accumulation of rubbish anywhere around here. No, there isn't. There's a couple of bottles maybe, but there's no dump. Infrastructure, again, just terrible. The cleanliness, not so much. So we are heading towards Lidl. Let's check it out. Well, there's not much here, is it? Not even here, behind these bins. It's clean. Green space is looking all right. There's a couple of things, nothing out of the ordinary. Trolley station is looking good. Let's check the parking lot. Let's check this green space. It's full of cigarette butts and stuff. See, this is a residential area. Deeply residential. It can't get more residential than this, but there are a lot of rubbish bins. Every 10-15 meters there's a rubbish bin. They're being used actually, as you can see. There's on the right, there's on the left. The thing is, you need them where people live. I remember Chalk Hill Road in Wembley had a 1-kilometer stretch through residential areas without a single bin, and it was disastrous. Look, there's a playground, the children's playground. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, just for this small space. Look, this one's overflowing, so it's actively being used. Right, so people want to do the right thing. Most people do. You got to provide them with the facilities to be able to do so. People live here, people throw stuff away. It's just you need them, period.
So, there you have it. Our second slice of Eastern European urban life ends here. I've tried to film and cover as much as possible during my short stay in Iași, following the same principles I always follow on this channel. Are parks clean? Are unpretentious neighborhoods clean? Does public rubbish management seem to be working? Or in other words, does it look like people generally care? The answer is mostly yes. Things are far from perfect. This is not Japan, Switzerland, or Norway. It's not in the same league. There are problems and I hope they're going to be solved. But all things said, Iași was reasonably clean. In 3 days of shooting for this video, I didn't stumble upon a single accumulation of rubbish. That has to count for something. Of course, maybe I'm just wearing a pair of rose-tinted glasses after escaping from years of living in Wembley and Queensbury, but Iași left a generally good impression on me. Anyway, I hope this was interesting to watch. If it was, please leave a comment or like, and if not already a superfan, consider subscribing. You know you don't want to miss out on a random guy pulling crap out of the verges in London. I'll see you next time.